Alright guys, welcome back. So I got another fun and it's actually relatively easy tutorial for you guys. Today we're going to be learning about pivots so you can make your own stick animations on your PC rather than using stick nodes on a very small Android screen. So I'm going to show you something that's equally as efficient, if not better, for multiple reasons. Yes, you can create your own objects right in the software. You can import PNG, image backgrounds, you name it. You can do pretty much anything. So I'm just going to run you through the basic controls just to start. So this is a free program. There is on the website as well an SDK library where you can download all new custom figures. So we'll get into that once I show you the basics here, and then we import the background and we start doing a small little animation. Then I'll explain the rest to you. But just to start, this is what it's going to look like as soon as you open it up. So I'm just going to show you the figure controls to start. So middle mouse is to zoom in. Hold left click and drag on one of the bones to move one of the bones like this so you can pose your character. You're probably thinking it's going to take forever because it looks like it's frame by frame. It is, but there is in-betweens as you see up here at the top. And you can do that for each individual frame. I find it a lot more efficient than keyframes like stick nodes. So I'm going to show you how to use those when the time comes, which will be very soon when I show you just like a very basic walk animation of some kind. So we're just gonna get started, doing the control. Okay, and if you press right click and you move one of the bones, you can actually bend them. So this works really good if you're using like a PNG of a sword or something and you want to warp it to look like it's swinging or something. That's how you do that. Like usual, Control Z is to go back in case you missed something. If you hold Control and then left click, you can stretch your character's bones and stuff like that. So if you want to make it look like he's turning or something in frame, you can do that very easily. So that's a magic feature to have as well. So over on the side, you're going to think, yeah, that looks pretty basic. There's not much you can do in here. There's a huge list, especially if you go to help and you use the user guide. You'll notice that it's extremely extensive. And if I go to file, you'll notice you got a bunch of things like you can import animated sprites. You can create your own figures. You can load SDKs, which you get on that website. And we'll go look at when we start doing a different animation here, okay? So over here in your little panel, this is your little toolbox. So you got delete figure, edit figure, so you can edit whatever you select in the scene. You got center, you got flip, you got figure color. This thing that says selected figure controls, I think that's labeled wrong. This is actually a join button. So you can actually join this origin. Say if you created one, this orange dot, you could bind it to anything. So you could bind a sword to your hand so you don't have to continuously make sure that the sword is accurately lined up with your hand. You just bind it there. So that's really handy to have. And you also have these buttons here, shift and lower. That's so you can raise the layer. So if you want to put something behind your object, you can do that. And if you hold control and then press it, you can go up by each incremental layer. So if you create two objects, like you have your set of arms separately from your character, you can add objects under your arms and over top of the body. So you can have those kinds of layers. I think you can go up to 5 or 6 layers. So keep that in mind. You can make some pretty complex characters, and people do release a bunch for free, and they are all rigged. So that's the magic thing about Pivot, is you can create and it's pretty much all rigged. You don't have to add these dots yourself. You pretty much just create the segment, okay? So I'm going to show you how just to start a basic animation and explain the in-betweens that are up here at the top. So, but first let me go into edit and go into options and then set your dimensions to whatever size it is. I set my dimensions to 1080 because I am using a slightly larger image I made in Krita for an obstacle course. So you can go into any photo editing software like Bitmap, something like that, and then you can create your own map. So you can go in there, create an obstacle course, import PNGs, animate them, do whatever you want, and then import that into Pivot and animate over top of it, okay? But the one thing I wanted to bring up here is this in-betweening here. So you can have smoothing. So if I go auto easing, you're going to notice this ball has a nice little smooth ease to it, right? So we're just going to leave that enabled. I'm going to show you a running animation with that enabled, and with it off. I recommend leaving it off because this will smooth anyway, but you want to have like quick punches in your sequence and stuff like that, okay? So you can then set your FPS to 33, 60 frames. It's not going to take a lot if you, so a lot of people used to dread increasing the frame rate because that was more frames you had to draw. So you'd have to do 60 frames per second by hand. right? So this has in-betweens, so that's going to take away all of those problems. I'm going to show you that right now. So let me just go into preferences. You got language, onion, skins, which are amazing to have. So you'll notice after I move the frame, you'll see a ghosted outline of my character. And that's how that's called an onion skin. So you can also change the theme of your pivot, which is great. So I have a dark theme on right now. Yours is going to probably start with light, so if it's really bright, just do that, okay? Don't worry about any of these options right here. Auto size, I believe, just rescales those dots. I have never actually seen that work properly, but that's completely fine with me. So, all right, so let's start an animation. I'm just going to make a basic run animation here. So let's get our character into pose. Again, you just click and drag these bad boys up into place. So we're just going to go like this. Make it like that. Let me just make sure I'm recording the right screen. Perfect. Okay. We want to get a little bit of bend in the leg. I'll just make it in place like this because we're going to do the actual animation on a background that I just painted inside of Krita. So that's also a free paint software. So let's press spacebar to add a frame. You're going to notice at the top we do have a frame now, and right beside it we have this green bar, which is our in-betweens. So we can actually click and drag this, and you can see a number below, and that'll be your manual in-between, or you can just click this right here and select all your frames and just add them automatically. So I'm going to show you how to do that because it's a lot easier. So we got frame 1. So I'm just going to do a 3-frame animation really quickly to show you 3 frames versus everything with in-betweens, okay? So if you add in-betweens, it's going to add whatever in-between between the 2 frames. So if you have 3 sets of 3 in-betweens, you have 9 frames, although you only have 3 frames that you actually made. So the next thing we're going to do is press spacebar again, and that's pretty much all you have to do through this whole thing. So let me just actually bring these frames back down to 0 so they're all the same. Just continue the thing. So now the next leg goes up. And yes, you can go back to the frames and edit them without a problem. You just click it, edit, hit update, and that's all you have to do. So that's really handy. And I'm going to show you about the camera as well. So you're probably wondering what this crosshair is. The magic thing about Pivot is it has just a camera right in the scene. You may have to enable that in options. I believe there's an enable camera window there. Or if you hit view, you can hit right here, show virtual camera. And that's going to show this crosshair right here and these little points, and I'll show you how to use the camera shortly. Okay, so we want this one last frame here, so I'm going to hit that, and now I'm going to play it back. So I want this to be at full speed, and I'm going to show you the reason why. So that's going to look really fast to you. You're going to be like, oh man, so I'm going to have to add a lot more frames to make that a lot slower. Well, you don't have to do that in Pivot. All you have to do is click the first frame, hold Shift, click whatever the last frame you want is, and then go to the right here where the in-betweens are, and we're going to add 3 in-betweens. Click on the frame again. It says set all selected frames to this in-between value. We're going to hit yes, okay? Now when we play it back, you're going to notice we have a lot smoother of a run animation, okay? And the beautiful thing about Pivot is I can easily just click the frame and update it, so I do want more head motion in our character. So we'll add something like that, and right down here you'll notice the add frame button turned into update frame. So make sure you don't click anything else, just hit update frame, and now you'll notice that we added a little bit of a head bob into our character, which is really nice. And then another thing we can do as well, so when he goes, so we'll make him go up, update, and then down, and then slightly up on the last one, so it kind of looks like he's got a little motion to him, right? There we go. Now we got kind of like a run animation. See how simple that was? And we only have 3 frames. And that's why I love Pivot so much. You can have so much fun so effing easily, right? So let's stop this. So now this the time you want to import whatever background you have. So I'm just going to create a new project. But very quickly, we're going to jump over into the website there. And we're going to look at some of the SDKs that Pivot has available. Okay, so let me just make sure I'm recording that correctly. So once you go into the Pivot STK library, there used to be a massive collection in the early 2000s called droids.org. It used to have thousands of these things, but most of that library has been saved and put onto this website. So if you're wondering where all that stuff was, if you're an old Pivot user, it is just on the Pivot website now. So that's extremely convenient, okay? So you got things as cars, and you're going to notice these little icons right here. So let me just explain that. And keep in mind, all of these are free. These are all user created. You can use them and contribute to the community as well. It's an amazing community to be a part of. Everyone's welcoming because you can just make this shitstorm of an animation, and it's always fun. So if I click this Doom Eternal one, so this just is just proof that people are still actively updating this. You got a bunch of anime, you got Dragon Ball characters, and you'll notice all of these layers. Like you can get some pretty interesting characters going here with layers and stuff like that. That's a little bit too advanced for me to create, but I'm just going to show you some of the basics, okay? So you could go ahead and download that, but again, I want to show you these icons. This thing that shows a movie clip next to it, that just means it's a package, okay? So it'll have all of these characters, and when you open it, you won't be able to import it like every other, so you can't just go to File, Import. You'll double-click this file, it'll open Pivot again, but a second one, and you can just copy and paste these into your workstation, the one that you're working on, then you can just close it. So you don't even have to have it open. You can just open it to take the character and bounce it out. And I'm going to show you why that's actually kind of useful. So I do have a bunch of these downloaded, but you'll notice some of these are actually just PNGs from Google that people made into objects. I'll explain some of that shortly as well. So I have this sword right here. I use this quite often. You got characters, so let me just scroll down. You even got Mario. Like, you got some really cool stuff on here. Compared to droids, droids used to be all of these just dark shaded characters and some of these effects. So you also have a category up at the top. So if I click this, I can go down to objects, effects like speed lines and smoke. And yes, these are animated, and as you see here, so you'll add them in by their frame, and it'll show you how to do that. You just copy and paste them into your thing, right? So it'll be per frame. So if you just want to have the smoke pop, you'll just copy one frame of it or all of them to make that, okay? So I'll show you how to do that shortly. So I'm just going to go down and you're going to notice there's cars and vehicles. Like you can make some pretty cool damn things. You can make your own weapons. I highly advise people make more characters because that's one thing that kind of lacks a bit. You have Dragon Ball characters. Like that's incredibly accurate. I actually kind of like that. You have soldiers and stuff, so you can get like into Counter-Strike. There used to be a good old Dust 2 animation one, but I do have enough characters for me to start what I want to do right now. So I'm actually just gonna go back into Pivot here. I'm gonna go into File. I'm going to load my background. Okay, now that I have my background into Pivot, I'm going to explain the camera now because you're going to notice, because this image that I imported is 1920 by 1080. My screen is 1080 by 720, and I just did that to show you this clean example right here that this camera is always in place. But let me just show you the control. The orange button is always the root bone, so you can position that. This bottom one right below it on the left will be the scale button. So you can actually turn small drawings into large scenes by just making the camera smaller and placing that up here. I'm not going to use this character, but just for example, I'm just going to hold Alt. Whoops, that wasn't Alt. And drag that up there. And if I press spacebar, you'll notice that this frame right here is only within this camera view. So that's incredibly useful. So you can have just one drawing, like a 1920 drawing, but extremely small if you have really good aliasing software like Photoshop. And you can have a lot of fun doing that. So it's even more fun to make the backgrounds just as it is to do the animation and Pivot. It's not like the Android one because that made my wrist hurt really quickly. Using in the mouse is just seems more natural. So let me go back and just delete this last frame here because I'm going to import one of my own characters. So if I wanted to import one of those characters, you could just go into wherever you download it. You go into load figure type, which would be an SDK, or you could create it or edit it after you import it. Okay. So now that I imported one of my characters, I imported one of the minis. You've probably seen these guys a lot in like stick figure animations. These specific figure types are either called midgets or minis. So remember that. They're just more bubbly looking, shorter characters. They make for great fun. I love using these characters. So I love using minis. And this button right here is your flip and mirror. So we're just going to press that. We're just going to kind of get them into a little bit of a run position. You can change the color of your character if you want. If you selected this, you can do a bunch of fun things. So I'm just going to make them black. We're going to go back like this. We're just going to set him up for a little run position. We'll give him some runway. We'll make them like fall and, you know, crash, and whoever gets through the obstacle force wins. Of course, I'll speed this up so you don't watch me do everything. So I'll play this part in fast motion so I can just do the animation and get past you guys. Okay, so let's get started. All right, now we got the small start to the animation. I should have moved the camera down a little bit. I could probably just click the frames and go through. But you'll notice I got a good whack of them, and it didn't take very long to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is just select my run animation at the start. I can see them at the top. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to add 3 in-betweens to those. So as you see, he runs, and then everything's going to play fast after that because we don't have any in-betweens on them. Or what you can do is select them all, just add 3, and then figure that out after you do it, but I always just go through like so. So I'm just going to do 2, maybe 3 in-betweens as well on the crouch and jump. So the jump is going to happen at 2. Maybe we'll make this a 1. And then that sliding he does when he starts slipping off the ball, I'll bring that to a 3. And then this is 0. Then the fall will be a 2 all the way until he hits the ground. And that's just how many frames are in between each of these, by the way. Okay, and I'm going to do this. Maybe do those by 1. Okay, and that should be the animation so far. So now if we play it back. It just kind of slips off and falls and kind of breaks his back on the thing, but I didn't bring the camera down far enough for the rest of it to play. So even if you didn't do that, what you can do is come back through it. So you'll notice that the camera stays stationary here. So I'll just go back to the frame where the camera moves. So that frame, and then we'll just start bringing it down. And you will see an outline on the next frame of the camera. So now if I go here, we'll just put the point right on that black line there. And then fix the camera. I always recommend doing this as you animate. Never forget the camera, especially if you're doing scenes like this with a larger image like I just did. So make sure you don't make that error. So let's go make sure the other 2 frames. And then the last one. Okay, now you should see it a little bit better. I'll finish off the animation now, so this will only be a couple frames. So again, that one will have to be updated, so we're going to update it. Now what we're going to do is push the camera down so you can see him falling. And he's just going to start, going down. You'll pick up speed. So the farther you move it away, you'll see that it looks like there's speed building. That's good, there's momentum. And then he falls off the camera. Okay? And then what we can do is just put a bunch of extra frames in there. Select them all. Add 2 in-betweens. Hit OK. So now when we play it back, you'll notice that we got a little stickman that falls and crashes on his back on the thing. Maybe even make that a little bit longer in frame, especially when he hits the board there. So we'll make the, oh yeah, that's one frame that should be stationary 3. That's what I call it, stationary 3. You'll see why. See, it looks like he's hanging on a little bit longer and falls off. The camera kind of jitters because I had to reposition it there, but as you see, it's coming along great. Then the next contestant can come up and try to do it. But you get the idea of how to do the animation so far. Then, like, if I really wanted to make his back bend on one of these frames, I could press Control and then, you know, stretch it. Do something funny if you really want to. Or right-click and bend him like this. So I can actually get that curve that I'm looking for right there. So you could do that as well. And then what we could do from here, so that's contestant number 1 failed. I can fix that speed a little bit right there. So maybe even make these 3s. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. Yeah, that looked way better. And then you could add sound effects in Premiere or something like that, right? But this just shows you, and if you're wondering why I have so many errors right here, I forgot to put on grow in Krita. So if you are using Krita, you put the option to grow 1, just put 1 in grow, and then you won't get this error right here with this little bit of bleeding. I'm not sure why it does that by default, but you know, that's just how it is, okay? So the next thing I'm going to show you right now is what I mean by layers, okay? So I'm going to go back to frame 1. I'm just going to use this frame for an example, okay? I'm going to import an STK file. This time I'm going to import a weapon of some kind, so I do have weapons downloaded. Axe, maybe I have a pistol somewhere. We'll use the sledgehammer, okay? So let's just bring this down to, say, 50. Might even have to go smaller than that. Okay. And you'll notice straight away, I can't exactly put this underneath this hand because if you would think about it, my hand would be over that object, but the object would still be crossing my body from this view, especially if it was in the view, you know, if I was holding the item like that. You see, that should be under the hand. So I'll show you a trick on how we can actually fix this. So we're going to have to go ahead and we're going to copy. I think you can copy this and paste it, right? And then what we're going to do is go to edit. We're going to find that left arm that we're using. I believe it would be this one. We're just going to delete it, okay? We're going to add this to animation. We can delete this old one that we have, or we can keep it. It's completely up to you guys. Okay, now we should have a figure with one arm on it, right? Okay, so if we wanted to make a layer out of this, we need to add one more arm on a separate object. So it has to be different than the object that's already on. So this is all layer 1. There is a way I think they're adding to set the layers automatically in edit mode to each piece, or I haven't figured it out yet, but what we're trying to achieve is put this part of the thing under its hand. So now that we have that as a separate object, we can put this entire arm over top, and it should cover that. So I'm just showing you a very simple trick on how you can make this possible, or make any layers just from copying, editing different objects that are the same, okay? So we do want to keep the arm now, so we have to delete everything on that character other than the arm. So let's go ahead and just start deleting this, deleting this, deleting this. I believe the arm is the same height as the body. We do want this origin point right here because we combine that to the object. So I could probably even just use the center body if I really wanted to. I'm not sure if it's the same width or not. So we can use this button right here to change the segment's orientation, but I think I deleted a part of the arm by mistake. Yeah, we need to keep the arm, so I want to delete the body. So I'm just going to put this as the main object. So I'm going to click that yellow button. Now we can delete this without deleting the entire character. And get rid of the head. And now we have an arm for a character. That's all you have to do. So now we can add it to the thing, and we're just going to call it arm, right? Now what we can do is actually bring this up, rotate this. And now what we can do is join. So we're going to click this join button. All of them are going to go white, and we're just going to click whatever one we want to join it with. So now that arm is completely bound to the character again. But now you're going to notice that we can actually take this sledgehammer, put it under that object. So if I bring it up by 1, so hold control, you'll notice that my hand is now under the sledgehammer and over top of the other one. So I can actually make it look like he's holding it now. So I could even do that for this character. I could just delete his arm and attach this arm to it. But I was just showing you for the sake of the thing. So, for example, if you wanted to make it look like he was holding it, you could even hold control, make this arm a little shorter. Because technically, if you're looking from this view, that arm would look a little bit shorter. And you could hold it like that, right? Now it's over top, opposed to if we were to take this sledgehammer and put it on this character, that it's only on top of the character. See how it's over top of both hands? Now we want to under one hand and over top of the other. Now it actually looks like we can actually pick up the sledgehammer and, use it. So that's how you would work with layers inside a pivot. A lot of people got confused with how to do that. So simple, just copy the same object you're trying to replicate, delete certain parts, and just rebind parts to it. So even if you wanted to make the whole left half of your body on one layer, just delete the leg and do the same thing with that as well. And you'll have a carrying object. See, now you can hold that. And now if I went to grab it from a side view, that's what it would look like, right? And if I were to do it on this object, just for one more example, you'll notice that's over top of both hands, which the way it shouldn't be, right? But I could do that as well with this one if I went all the way, if I raised it up all the way. But now we have 2 layers. We can go down a layer, now down another layer. Now it's completely behind him. Now it should be behind the other hand. So we'll bring it back up a layer just to show you. Oops, that's... Now we're on that layer. That's completely over top. So remember, you want to hold control, raise, lower down by 1 layer. So control lowers by 1 segment, okay? So we want to click that again, make sure this goes down by 1 layer. And now it's in our hand again. So now we can actually animate. So if you're holding a rifle or something, that's kind of how you want to deal with that. But again, we're not going to update that frame at all. And now we have our arm, and we can even just attach that arm to any character and use it. So now if we play back our frame, we do have a small little animation and he crunches. I could add a blood stain there if I really wanted to. Have another contestant come out, but I want to show you is even if the character is off screen, which is probably really obvious to you, you could still animate this. So I could bring this up and then start contestant number 2, okay? The next thing I want to show you guys is how to create an object or make a sprite object. So what we're going to do is go to File, and we're going to go to Create, okay? I'm going to go to New File. So you're always going to start with this little object right here. What I always do is just hold Control, make this really small. I'm going to show you why. Because when you import a sprite, it's going to give you an opportunity to place it, the origin point, wherever you want. It won't be this one. It'll be on a separate one, but then you can bind it to this one, especially if you want to have like a better rotation. So let's do that. I'm just going to open anything. I do have like a little PNG image from anywhere, really. So let me go grab one. Okay, we got an office chair. So we're going to use this office chair right here. And you're going to notice that it's really, really large. So just go to the corner. And right at this where this yellow dot is, you're just going to click and put this at the center or wherever you want your object origin to be. So that's going to be your pivot point as well. So I'll just put it right there because I want it to spin over the top. And then we're going to take our red one, which will be our pivot axis button, our bone, so we can tilt it with this red one. So I want this to be at the top of the chair. Now we're going to hit OK. Now we're going to click on one of these. Make sure you don't click anywhere else or it's going to disappear. Click one of these little bones here. So I'm just going to click it like that, and I'm going to scale it down. And you're going to notice that we have our object. And this is what I meant by make sure you have that there. Okay. Trying to go up. And then we have our grab point here at the top that we can tilt it with, okay? And if you want to add that to an animation, you just go to, you could save that sprite to a new folder, or you can hit add to animation. I'm just going to call it 12 for the sake of the video. And you're going to notice that it's extremely big. So what we can do is just click, hold Alt, and drag down. And again, you can add animated PNGs too, so you can add full animated rooms and stuff like that. But again, make sure that one object that you bound this sprite to isn't too close to this. You could probably just click and drag that out of the way with Control, which is an amazing little feature to have in Pivot. And as you see now, we have an office chair inside our scene, and you can animate that as well, right? So, if I just went to add frame, you'll see it up at the top, and you have an onion skin for that. Now we have a moving office chair. If you really wanted one, right? So for now, that's pretty much how you use Pivot. You can add multiple objects into this scene. You can change the colors. You can do anything you want, right? So go ahead and make some backgrounds, download Pivot, download some SDKs, make some videos, then bring it into Premiere and add sound effects to it. And that's all it really took to make a fun little animation. I usually do about 5 or 6 of these a week just to help with keeping the creativity skills flowing, all that juice going, right? So that's pretty much how you animate. And then if you wanted to export all of this, you can create text objects. I forgot to mention, you can set your background color in here. You can even export your animation as a GIF sequence, which is splendid, amazing to have. A PNG, so you can export each frame individually as PNG images with an alpha channel, mind you, so you can have transparency. You can do separate images. Again, I don't know if that's a JPEG format or not, or a video, which will export as an MP4, which is amazing too. So if I wanted to export it as an MP4, I could just go to 12, and it's going to play back for me. And you can set your height right here. You can even enable HD, WMV. Look at all the different formats you have. So this is actually a really powerful software for doing just stick animations, right? And for another thing I want to show you guys, always recommend going into the user guide, because if you go into the user guide, you're going to notice there's a lot more things that I didn't explain in this tutorial. It would take me forever to go through all of this stuff. So if you're looking for where your keyboard shortcuts and stuff, joining figures and stuff, it has full diagrams and it shows you which keys to press. Even after years of using Pivot, half of this stuff I didn't even know existed, so now that it makes life easier. So again, all you need is 3 frames to make a run animation with 3 in-betweens. That equals 9 frames, and you have a 9-frame run animation just out of 3 frames. So if you guys like today's video, please do like and subscribe. Keeps the channel alive, and I love making more videos like this. I love helping people. So again, please do like and subscribe, and I'll have some more videos in the future. Thank you for tuning into Boss Poses. Have a good night.